we have the ex-MIB wizard. Who knows who he will be today? There we are. You ready? Now you ready?
Hello from a location unknown to everybody.
Are you sure?
Sorry?
You sure it's unknown?
Well, I hope so.
Knowing him, he could have like a fake hack planned. So most of you don't need an introduction to Wolf because he is our tech guy from the conference, and he is the grant coordinator for Henderson Writers Group. But I don't know for sure that we have Wolf here today. Why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Well, I'm special author in charge, Wolf O'Rourke, I think. As Tanya kind of alluded to, I think I used to work for the Men in Black until I accidentally looked into a neuralizer. So unfortunately, my memory is not the best.
You want to tell us a little bit about your book journey?
Of course, yeah. Well, I have ADHD or something like that. So unless something happens, I just stop paying attention. So everything I write are pretty much fast-paced thrillers. I have a YA thriller series, which involves a pink-haired heroine. That's what I'm reading today. I also have a new adult thriller series and various adult thriller offerings.
Will you say the names of the books, because we're not able to see it with the virtual background?
Well, the young adult series is the Cyber series, which is yeah, technology. It's probably MIB trying to prevent me from spilling their secrets. So it's a cyber series. So every book starts with cyber, the first one being CyberSpiracy. CyberSpiracy is in the works. I have the Zastra series for new adults, which deals with a kind of accidental superheroine. And then I have different things for adults, like self-term limitation is going to go up on Vela, hopefully when it comes out in June. And the others are then going to follow in probably the same venue. And I think I got started a couple centuries ago. I have some vague memories of 5th grade. I published my first newsletter, and I actually came up through journalism. So switching to fiction was actually quite interesting because journalism builds everything exactly opposite. You lead with the main point of the story, and then it gets ever more boring as you go down the column, so they can cut it from the bottom. Of course, the whole point in fiction is that you're trying to keep the secret all the way to the end. So you're starting with more foreplay, and then you kind of drop hints and red herrings and all that stuff, and suddenly you have the big reveal. So it was a totally different setup. And also, of course, in journalism, every word counts. So you dispense with a lot of very flowery descriptions and things like that. You just give them the facts, ma'am. And in fiction, you do the opposite. So it was fascinating.
Was it a challenge?
Yeah, because you basically have to completely unlearn everything you've been doing for centuries.
Well, it seems like you did it. It is very fast paced. And, I would still say that the words matter in fiction, but I think you do a good job of making those words matter.
Thanks.
You want to share some of your words with us?
Of course. So I'll follow Julia, and I'll read you the blurb first. So CyberSpiracy. Hot pink hair can't hide you from high-tech hitmen. A timid and lonely 16-year-old girl hides from bullying in her dream world of dashing master spy dolls, blue-haired Katy Perry Barbies, and pink Hello Kitty dresses. And she hacks away across the net behind the avatar of a 6'4" hunk who's the handle cowabunga dude. A presidential video falls into her laptop and puts her pink paradise in peril. When the clandestine worlds of hacking and military technology collide with her secret crush, she faces the toughest decision of her young life: love or war. Chapter 1, Pink Paradise. Hacking computers can end your life permanently. So can stupid crushes. I survived because I have a friend in the highest place, and she mega owes me. Besides living through it, I know all the details from the top secret Phoebe report classified by Federal Executive Order 13927. The girls and boys from the Federal Bureau interviewed everyone who knew anything. They also grabbed recordings that anybody made out of sheer stupidity or to cover their butt. I know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So if you want to hear the story, raise your right hand, cross your heart, and hope to die. It all began on a dark and warm, in my room, October day. I rarely go outside. I love my room. It's safe, the way hacker girls like it. At least I think so. I don't know many hacker girls. Actually, none besides me. More precisely, I met none in real life. Online, girly profile pics, avatars, or handles prove nothing but earn mega mean comments. Many hacker boys look down or despise us. Girls can't hack or code, so they say. Don't get me wrong. I have many hacker friends and we get along just fine. None have been to my room match. Being guys, they probably find it weird and girlish. Others have no enter signs taped to their doors, but I'm not a kid anymore. Some let my 5'1¼ and my hot pink ponytail fool them. But this year, I celebrated my sweet 16 by starting college. Virtually, MIT lets me take all the computer science courses online thanks to my parents' generous donation. My family can afford it. In Virginia, the Altons go back forever, like Jamestown forever. Don't get me started. Yes, the settlers began to leave. Sorry, but the supply fleet arrived just in time. Trust me. Father told me his father's story mega million times, but I digress. My door has Hello Kitty stickers all over it. Nothing wrong with that. They're pink, cute, and tell mommy where my room is. I don't have other visitors, not even father. Smiley face. The room has windows, but I always keep the heavy curtains closed. Bright light wakes me up in the morning. Besides, too much snooping going on with all the cameras and stuff. I don't need anyone taking pics of my screens, not while I'm surfing dark places. My 3 monitors give me all the light I need. Mommy bought me a prototype laptop with fold-out panels so I can have the class notes, assignments, and an editor up at the same time. At least that's what I told her. Hacking takes center stage with multiple windows full of Python and JavaScript code to take over a website. The left screen shows social media feeds from 16 separate accounts I created. Don't want to make it too easy on the fibbies while I'm keeping up with what happens on the net. On the right, I monitor the important apps, my voice changer, streaming news, and the Katy Perry channel, #girlpower. So that October day, Vice President Sarah Drummond probably again bashed her fave target North Korea during her campaign speech. I had muted her to sing along to I Kissed the Girl, but mommy interrupted me with a knock. Edith is a gorgeous Southern belle in a business suit, if you can wrap your head around that. I can see why father wanted her on his arm, but don't underestimate mommy. Her name's really Editor, but as head of Intercom, one of Richmond's and Virginia's leading communication companies, she'd rather not show her Italian roots. She had enough grief about her ethnic name in school. Kids are kids. My proud granny Ida to trace a lynch all the way back to the Renaissance and insisted on keeping the names from the old country. Mommy opened the door partway. Lasagna's waiting. She played on my Garfield-like addiction to her pasta casserole loaded with tomato sauce. Always happened when I sang my fave tunes while coding something mega important. Can I eat in my room? I'm in the middle of homework. As much as you love it, that computer is not your family. 5 minutes, pretty please. I know she's a softie. I'll keep it warm, baby cakes. Mommy closed the door and I could have finished the song and the program, or so I thought. My fingers flew across the keyboard, but the group chat popped up with cartoon avatars for Master Lego, DEFCON 0, and Flash M. We were as close as hackers get, but that didn't mean we showed each other our real faces. Their wisecracks about my pink hair would have never ended, if they talked to me at all. Fortunately, hackers are camera shy, even the good ones that protect us from evil. We prefer showing pics from cartoons or fantasy epics. Once video chat becomes the thing, I'll have to get a rad visual effects program. In a voice I synthesized from the movie, Leia announced, "Chat from Lego." Yes, I named my laptop after the Star Wars princess. Hashtag mega girl power. I donned my wireless headset so Leia could understand me better. Plus no hidden microphones could eavesdrop on what anybody told me. Okay, maybe I'm paranoid, but that doesn't mean the Fibbies aren't out to get us hackers. Ditto the Secret Service, or the NSA, or the IRS. Never mind cyber criminals in Russia, China, or the European Union. It's a cyber jungle out there. And vitally, the headset made me one of the boys. Answer chat. Lego lived close to me near the Department of Defense in Arlington and across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C. He loved showing us his videos of his room full of things built from Lego electronics kits, like futuristic buildings, flying cars, jet planes, robots. Calling him fanatical missed the point. His parents didn't have a Pentagon budget to buy him laptop prototypes, so he'd scrounged together multiple computers, monitors, and many other hacker gadgets, including a converter to tap into the RG6 TV distribution coax cable that ran haphazardly across his desk and through the wall to the outside. His high-pitched childlike voice was more hyper than usual. I've done it. Check my private channel, guys. Decrypted live video of Russian bombers in our airspace, courtesy of the Pentagon. I brought up the darknet website that he hosted at home, and no kidding, it showed 2 Russian Tu-95 bombers from the point of view of a trailing F-22 fighter. Weird in the age of jets to see huge planes with propellers, but they still ferried nuclear bombs around for the Russian Federation. The running timestamp proved his boast. He did it. Hacked our defense department's encrypted battlefield live streams coming in from all over the world. Every military intelligence service would kill for that capability, literally. Rad, man. DEFCON was older. As you could tell from his handle, short for Defense Readiness Condition 0, a made-up alert state beyond thermonuclear war, he loved shooter games. He ranked in the Call of Duty World League. How did you get into the Pentagon? Didn't have to. Took it right off the satellite feed. Untraceable. Online, I'm Cowbunga Dude, a surfer nickname with a nod to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I picked the cartoon version of Michelangelo's grinning face as my avatar Natch. Mega. I know a vlog that will pay heavy Bitcoin for an exclusive. Can you say new accelerator board? Lego had cryptocurrency signs in his voice. What happened to his previous high-minded view about these bomber intrusions into our airspace? Act tough and let the Russians know who's boss. Reveal the truth to force our military brass to take a stand. So mega, Lego, I'm jealous. When I spoke, 2 different dancing waveforms filled the black window of my voice changer app. To the boys, I sounded like a hunk. You're only 21, stand by for orders. The distorted audio from the Pentagon feed suggested an Air Force general barking at the speakerphone. So rad that we could also listen in on the mega secret convo in the sit room. Chapter 2, Mega Situation Room. Sarah Dramo entered the White House Situation Room unacknowledged. Nothing unusual that nobody paid attention to her, but still aggravating after 4 years. Vice presidents throughout history had received no respect for their limited role in the US government, often relegated to waiting for their bosses to die. Add in the lack of female representation among general and flag officers, and she had to fight twice as hard to gain any credibility in national security matters. Only since she had to shoulder the burden of a presidential candidate had she even received briefings, almost exclusively from male analysts. All the Joint Chiefs of Staff and most of the political members of the National Security Council sat around the huge table. At its head, the empty chair of President McCable. He awaited surgery for a heart condition. His incapacity led to her first time in this inner sanctum of power. The big screen against one wall showed the feed with the Tu-95 bombers. Smaller screens displayed maps with the flight route along the north coast of Alaska and tables of data from and about the aircraft involved on both sides. Her knuckles touching the soft wool of her suit, she angled her arms at her sides and took a power stance in front of the heavy double doors. What happened to standing for the commander-in-chief? All attendees stood. The difference one word made. As vice president, she had no constitutional military responsibilities whatsoever. Lose the precincts, and everybody jumped as high as she commanded. 4 years of humiliation finally paid off. She sat down in the president's chair. The men retook their seats. With a military mission on the agenda, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs turned to her. Madam Vice President, this is a routine. President, until ex-President McCable comes out of surgery, I'm in charge. What a delight for her to correct the past injustices. Yes, Madam President. Continue. This is another routine incursion by Russian bombers. The fighters will escort them out of our airspace. Drummond tapped her fingers. Everybody knew McCable had picked her to garner the women's vote. She delivered and since then had spent more time twiddling thumbs than most of her predecessors. Common gossip in Washington. The president's failing health saved her from continuing to wait idly in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, on the periphery of the real seat of power. A show of strong and confident leadership would convince the men in the room that she belonged here forever. How many years? How many this year? Dozens. It's routine. They merely want to provoke her. How many engines does that thing need to fly? Pardon? Typical condescending male. At least she had everyone's attention. Time to take a stand for women in government and everywhere else. You heard me? The look on the chairman's face, priceless. Shown up by a female commander-in-chief, he beat a retreat back to his old boys network and looked to the Chief of Staff, US Air Force, for an answer. The graying man in a dark blue dress uniform stared down and played with his brass buttons. Bear bomber can stay airborne with 2 engines, but shoot out one. Her opportunity to show her military mettle honed through watching hours and hours of war movies in her office. The top actresses would claw each other's eyes out to play the leading lady when Hollywood filmed the biopic of one Sarah June Drummond. The chairman objected, Madam President, there's a high risk. She knew why she had strenuously opposed the appointment of that coward as principal military advisor to the president, but McCable ignored her. Tragic for her that word of her disapproval had leaked. Soon it would no longer matter that the chairman held a grudge. She made sure he got the message. We need to show these Ruskies that I will not tolerate this kindergarten behavior once I'm president. If you win in 2 weeks, or McCable dies today. The only real benefit of her job, the constitutionally guaranteed line of succession. She had the guts and now the power to shake up career military brass who preferred to keep their cushy jobs rather than deal with real problems. Stunned silence best described the reaction. High and mighty men avoided each other's eyes to escape shouldering responsibility. The chief of staff of the army sank so low in his seat he threatened to vanish completely. Cowards. No question why God had preordained her rise as their boss. With such an aggressive act, we could be provoking World War III. The chairman regained his posture. We? Thanks to the regular security briefing, she no longer had to rely on journalists snooping out details of the Ruskies' belligerent behavior. How often have their planes stomped ours this year? Isn't that an aggressive act, flying so close we can feel their jets wash? Well, yes, but they've been doing that throughout the Cold War. And after 60 years, I'm ordering an end to their childish games right now. The chairman nodded to the Air Force chief. So ordered. He pressed the talk button on the center console. Mjolnir 21, disable one engine on one of the intruders. Accompanied by radio static, the pilot's voice sounded from the console. Please confirm, sir. You want me to target an engine on the bandits? Did all these recalcitrant men deliberately sabotage her efforts, or were they truly this dense? She rose, leaned across, and slammed her hand on the table. Mjolnir 21, this is your commander-in-chief. Fry one of those engines. This is an order. Roger, ma'am. At least the military chain of command worked in her favor. Crosshairs appeared on the video feed. The image zoomed in on the turboprop engine of the bomber. Moving in, Mjolnir 22, stay back. Bright tracer rounds streamed toward the target. Flames engulfed the propeller. Smoke billowed. A dark object dropped out of sight. Drummel folded her arms. What glorious success in her first battle. The military would learn to respect her. And bringing the Ruskies to heel would play well with her base. It might even cement her election victory. Sorry, I lost my line.
No problem.
The camera.
Although now might be a good time to open the floor for questions. Are you okay with that?
Well, unless somebody wants to hear the climax.
We all want the climax, Wolf. I will start off the questions really fast, though. You don't look like a typical feminist, but it's clear that you have your villain is a woman, your hero is a young woman. Clearly, girl power is on your mind. What inspires you to write toward that?
Okay. I went to undergraduate school in a small state. And we basically had one college that had a good engineering program. So if you wanted to be in engineering, you went to that school. So my engineering class was actually quite large, 150 students, and 1/3 was women, so 50. And when you get above 30, statistically, you have a normally distributed sample. So there were all kinds of women in my class. The valedictorian, a woman, would be considered a nerd, but we also had sorority sisters. And one woman was so good with makeup, she got the highest offer in the class because she was hired by Avon as their Western region sales engineer because they needed somebody who understood makeup and chemicals. And of course, makeup is all chemicals pretty much. So I just was used to that women were in engineering, women were in science, and it was normal. And to me, it came as quite a surprise that in the actual working world, that representation isn't there. And a lot of it just has to do with misinformation. And a lot of that misinformation comes from popular media. The Gina Davis Institute for Women actually released a study late last year that proved that 80% of high school and middle school girls said that media representation matters. And if you look in the media, how are women in tech portrayed, especially women in computer sciences and hackers? You have the girl with the dragon tattoo. You have Sandra Bullock, a nerd in the net. You had a woman wearing camouflage and combat boots in Mr. Robot. And that is what feeds these stereotypes. And it keeps women out of not only some of the highest paying jobs, but also the jobs of the future that will make this country. And it's to the detriment of everybody if that happens. So CyberSpiracy, the heroine, was obviously picked specifically to send the message that you can be feminine, you can be girly, and you can be a good hacker, because there's basically no reason you can't. There are studies that pretty much show that women are just as good in math and science as the men. It's just a lot of people, including a lot of women, don't believe so and self-exclude themselves. So this is where a lot of that came from.
Deanna has her hand raised.
I do. Hi, Wolf. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. So my question, you partly answered it. It dovetails in with Tanya because your character is, I mean, she is unique. You know, she's a young girl. As you read through, you feel all, like what a 16-year-old girl would normally feel as far as insecurity. She's very feminine, but she's this cutting edge hacker. So I was going to ask, specific to Cowabunga, was there a specific person or maybe an amalgamation? How did you come up with the idea for her character specifically?
Cowabunga. So from a story standpoint of view, the heroine is defined by the villain. It's the villain that shapes what the heroine does and ultimately defines her. And so from a thriller point of view, you want the heroine to be about as far away from the villain as you can. And the ultimate villain in the story is a Navy SEAL who is a top-notch fighter and very good at tech. So he can match her on just about any level. And so Cowabunga was picked to be about, let's say, as weak as she could be compared to that villain. If I could have made her 9 years old, I would have. But that wouldn't have worked with the story. So I picked a small, petite, very girlish woman to go up against this Navy SEAL, so that the contrast was about as strong as you possibly can make it. And of course, the guy looks down on her.
So why couldn't she be 9? What was the reason for that?
Well, like she has to travel to Chicago and she has to go out on her own and do all kinds of things that are kind of difficult to do when you're 9.
So the suspension of disbelief for a 16-year-old doing this stuff is different than a 9-year-old who would need a parent to hand in hand to go along with her for everything.
I mean, she sneaks out of the house, but
16-year-olds do that.
yeah. And for a 9-year-old to get onto a
But
plane.
I never did, Mom. My mother is here, so. I did have a note privately sent, kind of speculating on what the age group is for this story.
So the age range goes from middle school to high school, which is, again, that was specific to, it is in middle school where most girls are taught that they're not good at science and math. So again, if I could have made her 9, 10 years old to appeal more to middle school, I would have. But again, I had to make it. And that is part of the problem, is there are very feminine series and stories in tech in middle school. The most best known one is Kim Possible, Atomic Betty, of course, and other stories like that. The problem is they're not realistic. Kim Possible has access to resources that are ridiculous. She can't just suddenly travel across the world in her own jet, and it's never explained how she gets that. She has laser guns and so on. And so they are not good role models in the real world. And so to make the story realistic, I had to move everything up, and everything in the story is as accurate as possible. The hacking follows how real hacking works. You don't suddenly have people crack passwords in 10 seconds with some kind of device that doesn't exist. All the hacking is from real life hacks that actually can happen. And her life is real life. Yes, she is smart. She jumped a few classes, but she has to struggle with her classes. She has to do homework, and she can't just suddenly take off and go flying off somewhere to fight the bad guys. So that all kind of played into the construction of this heroine to make it possible for her to be a realistic role model, where girls and young women can say, yes, I can be like that. I can relate to her, and I can do what she does, because they can. There is nothing difficult about programming. In fact, Google just started a certificate program where if people pass that, they will hire them for programming jobs without a college education. You don't need to go to college and learn compiler theory or Markov chains to work in programming. Programming is not hard.
Have you considered turning this into an animated series?
Absolutely. It's a resources issue. So I am raising money to the first step would be to produce a comic book, graphic novels. Obviously, the title is, as Julie alluded, it's basically graphics. And that same artist could do a comic book, but she needs to get paid, she needs to make a living. And then after that, it would be possible to either do it live action or do it as a animated series. That is all possible. And in fact, I just looked at my Amazon ads today morning, and once again, a lot of the keyword hits were on the search string graphic novel. So there's definitely people looking for this in a more animated way. But as right now, it's a resource issue.
So we've had quite a few comments in the chat, and I don't want to lose them, so I'm going to read a few of them to you. Ned said, you seem to live in a world of your own. So what's the rent like for your condo on Fantasy Island? Or more to the point, where can I get some of what you're smoking? Whichever works for you. He also said to everyone that he bought this book several times, an e-copy for himself, a POD version for his oldest granddaughter. She's 16 and loves the story. He's 69 and loves the story. So it makes a great gift for granddaughters too. You, Wolf, did a great job maintaining the tone and your voice through the manuscript. And then, oh, that's my mother saying I was a perfect angel. All right, so full disclosure, I did sneak out, but it was for ice cream. And then Terry asked, Wolf, how did you get the voice of this girl? Which kind of speaks to what Ned was saying.
That is part of research. Obviously, you can get it through reading a plot. I mean, of course, I mean, as I say, I went to high school with a lot of girls. I went to college with a lot of women. I dated a lot of them. I use actually real life models for all my characters to try to get the voice right. Because if I know what personality type I'm going for, I probably know somebody who
So I think
behaved like that.
Deanna was asking that. Who was your prototype for Cowabunga Dude?
As a Cowabunga Dude was constructed to serve the story. But she does look like, other than the pink hair, a woman I went to college with who was in my class. So she could have been Cowabunga Dude. So again, I know for a fact that somebody like that can be in engineering because I know somebody like that. The actual physical model is somebody else though, because I know more how she talks and how she acts, but she just doesn't happen to be in tech. But if you combine those
That's
two
where you got her
characters-
voice with the mega this and all of that. That's where you got her.
Well, the mega voice, obviously she's using a scientific term because she's a hacker. She does occasionally use words like "ew" and so on that teenage girls are more familiar with. But the mega was definitely from being a hacker, where that word obviously is used mega often.
It looks like two of the audience members feel seen here. Susan says, here, programming is more like storytelling than it is math. And I will say that she has also had colored hair and she is a programmer. And then Linda says, love the story. I will buy the book for my nieces. Good POV as a feminist who believe that a woman can succeed at the top of a professional field wearing lipstick and heels.
Yeah. And by the way, there are a number of managers in tech companies that wear pink hair.
Times are changing.
As Lee was saying, as a professor, you can look any way you want. And if you're the CEO, you can also look at any way you want.
Well, do we have any final questions for Wolf before we move on to Lee? All right, Wolf, thank you.
Ned had his hand up.
Does he? I don't see it. Maybe because I had the chat open.
I just took it down. Yeah, Wolf, I wanted to say that this gave me a lot of insights into the world of my granddaughter, and found that very interesting because there were overlaps there. She's very much girl, and yet she's fascinated by things having to do with technology and programming and things like that. So also, I had never heard of Katy Perry, and Roar is now one of my favorite songs. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Thank you, and great book.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ned.
Oh yeah, when's the sequel coming out?
I have not managed 1,800 words every day so far.
Okay.
So sometime this year, I hope.
Okay.
Where can people buy your books, Wolf?
So my books are available wide, and Audrey put the links in the chat, so you can get all formats at the major vendors. And that link, the books to read link, is a universal book link, so it will take you to your store of choice, whichever one you select there.
Oh, and I see for autographed copies, they can email you.
Yeah. Since we are not in the store, I thought I'd make it available to anybody who wants to get one by mail. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any final comments or questions? All right, thank you very much, Wolf.
Thank you.
And